this meeting for the Township of Hampton Council for Wednesday, July 8th, and we will start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Ms. Blackburn?
Present.
Ms. Fritsch?
Present.
Mr. Midgley?
Present.
Mr. Shuley?
Present.
Dr. Johnson?
Present.
Mr. Speakman?
Present.
All right, the first item on the agenda tonight is citizens' agenda matters. So if anyone has anything that they would like to address to council, please step to the microphone, state your name and address and your concern. All right, before we move on to the public hearing, we are going to move our public safety item up so that we can allow our officers to get back to work. And I will allow you to please do so.
Yes, Sergeant Gromwolski, if you could step forward. Sergeant Gromwolski is going to introduce Hayden Nyman, who was appointed by council last month to the position of full-time police officer. He was actually on a deployment at the time. He's here before you this evening.
Hey, do you want to step on up? It's our newest officer, like Mr. Jarosky said, currently in the Army Reserves. He starts on the 13th. Nice clean cut lad there.
Butler, City of Butler boy?
City of Butler.
Yeah.
We're just talking about fishing and hunting and all his hobbies. He brought his family and his fiance with him tonight. I think he'll do very well here.
Welcome, everyone.
Yeah.
Welcome.
You guys will be
Welcome.
good hands.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Congratulations.
Congratulations and welcome.
Congratulations. Welcome. Congratulations.
We have a present for you.
Go Foster.
Okay, picture time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
It's the icing.
Thanks, Rob.
Want me to hold your phone for you? One, two, three. Give me one more. One, two, three. Okay, any individuals with your fiance and you in there? One, two, three. Give me one more. One, two, three.
Congratulations.
Wait. Did I get one?
Joke I have with her.
All right, we will now move on to the public hearing for the Seven Brew conditional use. So can I have a motion to reopen the public hearing for application 26-01, Seven Brew?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch? Favor. Mr. Midgley?
Favor.
Mr. Shuley?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor. All right, we'll start with a presentation from the applicants, I believe.
All right, good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me? All right, my name is Michael Lasitis. I'm with Steckbeck Engineering, here to represent the applicant, which is Hootbrew PA 3 LLC. The applicant is a developer with interest in the property to construct a proposed drive-through coffee shop use. It's approximately 535 square foot building. There's an accessory cooler building approximately 265 square feet. It will employ two drive-through lanes and a third lane that would serve as a bypass lane and potential queuing lane as needed. The use itself borders on William Flint Highway. It is at, I believe it's 4778 William Flint Highway. So it is the location of the existing Simply Subs facility, for anyone who's familiar with that. Again, it's a drive-through coffee shop use. We are proposing, currently, it is 12 parking spaces, which includes the one handicap space for the employees. So I apologize that this maybe has seemed like it's drug on up to this point. We've been working diligently with the Planning Commission and township staff and their engineers from the time of submission until now to address as many of these comments as we could by this time. So we'll go through the, I guess this is specific to the conditional use criteria for this site. So as part of the proposal, we need to meet certain conditions as part of the conditional use process. There are general conditions and then there are specific conditions. So I will go through each of those. That is typically how we do it. I assume that's probably the way it's handled here as well. Just basically to run through the criteria and how we meet these criteria. Item 1 of the general conditional use criteria under section 31076 of the zoning ordinance states that conditional uses are listed in Article 9 of this chapter. So our proposed use is a drive-through coffee shop use which fits under the conditional use list under section 31038C4. So item B, the granting of the conditional use by the council after review and recommendation by the Planning Commission and Environmental Advisory Council shall be predicated on the developer's submission of written application together with an illustrative site plan containing the information required. So we have submitted a site plan, we've been going through that process. That item is considered adequate by the township engineer's review up to this point. It is my understanding there is no more environmental advisory council review as part of the conditional use process. Just to add that as a side note. The written submission shall demonstrate that the development for which the conditional use is sought will meet the primary criteria outlined below. So just generally any conditional use needs to meet these criteria. Item 1 will not endanger the public health, safety, and welfare if located where proposed, and will not deteriorate the environment or generate nuisance conditions such as traffic congestion, noise, dust, smoke, glare, and vibration. So it's our position that the proposed coffee shop use would not endanger health or public safety or welfare of the local community. There will be no or negligible noise, dust, smoke, glare, and or vibration. The use does employ the music as part of their typical operations. So they have speakers in their drive-through area, specifically under the canopy, directed down, that they play music, kind of more upbeat music. The use specifically is, in my opinion, catered to the younger crowd. So they try to make it a little bit upbeat and lively. And my understanding is it also is for the employees that they're out there. It operates similar to a Chick-fil-A type use, if you're familiar with that. So the employees actually walk through the drive-through and take orders instead of you driving up to an order window and using a speaker for somebody to take your order, so that it actually helps them process more vehicles quickly. Where you don't have to wait to take an order, you can actually physically move and take the order of a car behind you. So it's in the interest of efficiency, that happens, but in any case, they do play music out there. If there were a situation where that music would tend to cause a disruption, it can easily be turned down and monitored by the operational manager of that site. In this case, we are along the state route. It's a pretty busy corridor, so I would think that the noise from the state route alone would equal or be higher than the noise from the music being played. The other consideration is traffic. So the use currently is a similar use. It's a restaurant. They do not employ drive-through as part of their use. The drive-through coffee shop is a higher trip, a higher volume use than what's there now. So we will go into some greater detail about that in a little bit. But that is one consideration. However, we believe that it's a safe or is an ideal access for what we're proposing as far as the stacking goes. I think we've shown the ability to accommodate the necessary amount of stacking for the queuing based on their operational needs and what we've witnessed from other sites in the past. Obviously, it is a busy corridor out there. The state road itself has a lot of traffic. So we understand that. And we understand that there is some concerns that have been voiced from the township engineer, from township staff about left turns coming out of the site. We had developed I don't know if you can pull the plan up. I have a board there I can grab to, whichever is easiest. But we developed an access drive scenario which we believe is ideal for the operations, to give people the ability to make a left turn should they need to do so. But it does not prohibit right turns out from the site. So obviously right turns being the simplest and easiest to make, you don't have to cross an oncoming lane of traffic to get to your desired avenue of egress. You simply make sure your lane is clear and pull out.
Which drawing number are you referring to?
I guess the layout plan, I think it's sheet 4.0.
4.0?
Up near the start. I think almost any of the plan view sheets would work.
Just a little laggy, that's all.
Lagging a little bit,
Yeah.
that's fine. I don't know how easily you can see this from up there. But so here's our ingress. We have a one-way ingress off of Lincoln Highway. They would circulate around the building, come out on the north side of the site, and we have a concrete island here that would separate the vehicles
Right there.
turning left from the vehicles that would be turning right freely on the highway. So that, in our opinion, was the best way to provide a solution for vehicles getting out of the site, going either northbound or southbound, that doesn't prohibit left turns, but still allows folks to make a right turn in the case that someone is waiting to make a left turn. So I think we'll come back to the traffic discussion once we go through some of these other items. So item 2 meets all other requirements of the chapter in the zoning ordinance where the use is proposed. We've designed the site in accordance with the Hampton Township ordinances. It's currently in the process of review and approval by the Hampton Township staff and their engineers. There couple outstanding items. We can go through them once we've gone through the conditional use criteria. Item 3 is in general conformity and in harmony with the area in which it's proposed. As I stated before, this is a highway corridor. It's a highway commercial zone along that corridor. There's a lot of similar uses, commercial type uses in this corridor. As another item of note, none of those other adjacent uses have a restriction. As far as traffic goes, they're all free access, right or left turn, throughout that corridor. So the item of note, there's an outstanding comment from the township engineer stating that in their opinion, the proposed use will generate a significantly higher amount of traffic than the existing use. So while there will be more traffic coming through the site, I think it's an important distinction to note that the use itself is not necessarily a big traffic generator. It's a drive-through coffee shop type use where the majority of the traffic through that site are considered pass-by trips. So per the ITE manual, which is the PennDOT's kind of go-to traffic manual for studies of particular uses and the kind of traffic that they generate, it suggests about somewhere between 80 and 90% of the trips to a drive-through coffee shop use are people that were already on that roadway that are stopping in for service there. So traffic generation is kind of generally broad term. So the site itself will generate trips into the site, maybe more so than the current use. But it would not, it's not anticipated to generate significant traffic to that state route corridor. The trips are assumed basically already. Item number 4 is an appropriate use on the proposed site as a conditional use. As we've stated in the application, the proposed drive-through use fits under the definition of drive-in restaurants, quick food service outlets, drive-in banking facilities, or other similar drive-through services, which is explicitly listed as the conditional use for the zoning ordinance. Item 5, it is consistent with the comprehensive plan for the development of the municipality. And the response we had provided there is the comprehensive plan is developed to assist in the establishment of zoning districts and overall township planning ordinances, as this use is specifically listed in that ordinance. We would consider that we're meeting that item. Item 6, it is in conformity with the zoning and subdivision regulations otherwise applicable to the subject property, including but not limited to density bulk use. So specific to that item, it calls out including but not limited to density bulk use. I think we clearly meet all of those criteria. There are obviously others that it doesn't explicitly refer to. We are still under review with the land development side of things with the township engineer. We can go through that letter once we're through with the original conditional use review. But the township engineer does note that there are outstanding items as part of the land development review. Item 7 makes adequate provision for public services, environmental protection, provides adequate control over vehicle traffic, and furthers the amenities of light and air recreation and visual enjoyment. Position is that the proposed site design is designed in accordance with all Hampton Township ordinances and will be reviewed and approved against all applicable ordinances, which include provisions for environmental protection, traffic controls, lighting requirements, and similar considerations. So we do have a lighting design provided on the land development plan that meets the ordinance criteria. I don't think there's any concerns of air pollution or anything like that. The township engineer notes in their latest review that their review, again, is under separate cover, and there may be outstanding items, which again we'll touch on. Item 8 is complementary to the neighborhood in which proposed use is to be established. I think that's pretty similar to the previous item in the highway commercial corridor. There's several similar uses to this as part of that corridor. I think it fits in the general neighborhood. It's very similar in my position of what's there now. Item 9 will not increase danger and congestion in travel and transportation. So again, we'll get to the in-depth traffic discussion. But in our opinion, the PennDOT permit and traffic impact analysis are intended to address that item. Item D, the illustrative site plan shall show to scale the entire property to be ultimately developed and shall indicate locations, height, use, structures, driveways, parking areas, topographical and or natural features. An architectural rendering of the structures proposed shall also be submitted. So we did submit that. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to review the general architectural rendering. So this is just kind of a prototypical rendering of what that use would look like. It's not site specific as far as what's next to it or anything like that, so won't focus too much on the background. The building is a kind of like a faux brick. It's a cementitious concrete siding material that it looks identical to real brick, even up close. But their color schemes are black and red for the signage, blue for the carport and accents along the top of the building. And then you can see the kind of drive-through and the way it's set up as well through that rendering. How there's a canopy there where vehicles will ultimately stop, and then as they back up and they're being served, the people serving them would just walk back through the stacking queues. Also, obviously, site plans are available for review. I don't know if you want to take time to look at those, or if everyone's already had a chance to kind of digest the proposed site plan and what's going on there.
I think we've all had a chance to look through those.
Okay. All right, perfect. And then item E, any development that proposes to create condominium units or to convert rented units, blah, 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 none of that is applicable. So the next section, I don't know that we need to necessarily go through it. Section 31077 just relates to the conditional use process. Just as a bit of background, we've been to two planning commissions so far. That was after a preliminary meeting with township staff, where we had done our best to vet any of these potential items up front that may be a cause for concern to the township. So I'll just skip through that section for the sake of time. Obviously, we're here at a hearing, which is part of that criteria. And then there are specific conditional use requirements, just wanted to touch on. Based on the specific use under 31078A, item 23. It's under drive-in or drive-through restaurants, quick food service outlets, and drive-in or drive-through banks in the HC and NC zoning districts. So there are three specific criteria there. Item A is access drives shall provide at least the minimum legally required site distance for motorists and circulation into and through the property, and location of parking shall be obvious to motorists. So taking that for what it is, my understanding that we explicitly meet what's stated there. We are providing the legally required site distance that was exhibited on the latest traffic impact analysis report that was submitted. So, and obviously we're going through PennDOT as well as PennDOT, a state road. So PennDOT has jurisdiction over our HOP permit ultimately, and they verify site distance separately as part of that process as well. But we do have adequate site distance per PennDOT regulation. That's verified by TPD through specific measurement on site. And then we have signage and pavement marking to clarify throughout the drive-through lanes. We provide arrows section is met, very explicitly. The township engineer noted in their latest review, dated July 7th, that as of the date of this letter, it's their understanding that a revised traffic study addressing review comments has been submitted and under review. However, nothing outstanding that's being worked on or discussed has anything to do with the specific requirement under that conditional use. Item B, areas not paved or occupied by structures shall be landscaped and maintained or left in natural cover, and the edges of paved areas abutting landscaped areas shall be curbed. In review of the site plan, I don't know if you want to go to the landscaping plan, I think it is sheet 6. Yeah, sheet 6. But on sheet 6, I think we can take a look once we get there. But any areas that are not paved are proposed to be landscaped or maintained to be left in a landscape coverage. And the edges of pavement are all curved, so we're proposing curve around the entirety of the site. So specifically, item B is also met per how it's written. Similar to item A, the township engineer notes that they provided comments regarding landscaping as part of the land development plan, which obviously we'll be addressing. That's something we will go through later on, but again, those items are not related to this specific section. Then item C, the use of the site and the access to it shall not endanger the public health, safety, and general welfare. So in our response, we note that the proposed site access is analyzed as part of the traffic assessment. Site access evaluation provides evidence supporting the provided design as a safe and effective access solution. Furthermore, the site access is submitted to PennDOT for review and approval per PA Code Chapter 441 requirements. The proposed site access is designed to provide the safest possible means of ingress and egress from William Flynn Highway. By separating the ingress and egress and by providing a means for right-out traffic to leave the site without stacking together, with any traffic turning left out as discussed and conceptually accepted by PennDOT in a scoping meeting. So we had, just to give you a bit of background, we had a scoping meeting application with PennDOT preliminarily for this site. I think township staff were on the call as well. And we had developed this concept where we would separate the ingress and the egress to provide the safest possible means of access to the site. So if you're familiar with the site currently, it's kind of just an open gravel area. PennDOT really frowns on that at this point. It's just considered unsafe, and it's unclear to motorists where they should enter and exit. So I guess my thought is our proposed access would be considerably safer than what is there now, especially the way PennDOT views things. So I think that takes us all the way through the conditional use criteria and the latest review by Gateway. So we can go through the land development comments, if that makes the most sense at this point. I think the first item is a non-issue. The plans must be signed and sealed by the plan preparer. That's typically something we would handle once all the comments are addressed and there's no further plan-related items to be addressed. More often than not, say actually generally always that's a condition of plan approval at a certain point. So the township engineer in their latest review noted that response was not acceptable. Not clear as to why that's not acceptable. It's typically how we handle things. That's something we can work through with them. But I'm sure it's as simple as us signing the plan also. So I don't think that's much of an issue. Item 2 was addressed. Left that on the review letter. provide certifications and signature blocks on a cover sheet for a land development plan. Most everywhere else, but I guess in this location it wasn't desired, so that's been removed, taken care of. Item 3, on sheet 3.0, the location of the loading zone meeting the township requirements must be shown on the plan with the dimensions. So the township ordinance requires a 12 by 35 loading zone. It does not, the ordinance doesn't specifically require the loading zone to be delineated or striped from what I can tell. So the reason we didn't do that with our latest submission, we had talked about loading occurring off hours, so that it could be done against the building instead of it being done in this kind of accessory lane for bypassing queuing. So, Aaron, could you go back to sheet 4?
Yeah. Sorry, this thing's just very laggy tonight, so just takes a minute.
I have.
Oh, wait, hold on, we're almost there.
Sorry, sheet 3.
Sheet 3?
Yeah. Yeah, so, let's do this. We have a proposed loading space here in our, so this is the third lane that we discussed, the kind of a queuing and bypass lane. So we showed the loading space there, if it would have occurred during operating hours. However, it was, I think, desired by the township engineer to have loading occur during off hours, so that they would basically pull it right along the building and use that ramp to get into the building. But obviously, that's our drive-through lane. It's our hope that we don't need to actually paint that as a loading space. I think that would create some confusion for the folks coming through that drive-through lane during the operational hours. So, again, it's my understanding that that's not an explicit ordinance requirement. I know it's desired by the township engineer. Obviously, it would be ideal if we could paint a loading zone next to the building, but being that it also serves as a drive-through use, I think it would lead to some confusion. So that is where that stands. Not sure if the council has a position on that or an opinion at all. I'd be interested to hear thoughts on that, but.
Is the front of the building paved,
Yeah.
or is that grass?
No, that's a green space area
Okay,
in
yeah,
between
that's
the
what
two axes.
it looks like it, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that just from an operational standpoint, I think that would be difficult to, it may be possible, but I think it would be difficult to get a vehicle in off the highway there. You probably lead to a very wide paved apron, right along the right of way. So it could be possible, although usually loading in the front yard is not desirable. So I think.
Just thinking outside the box.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. But I did do a little bit of just desktop review quickly today as well. And I wasn't able to find another similar drive-through use site in Hampton Township that had a designated loading space paved. It's possible that I didn't find one, missed it. But I wasn't able to locate a similar situation where they had a painted loading space in their surrounding drive aisle of the building.
Seven Brew has 500 or so locations in the United States, roughly 800. So, how do you load and unload at those after hours, same as your?
Yeah, I think similar.
Right in the drive-through lane.
Yeah,
Assuming all the
or I-
buildings are about the same.
Bob, can you speak to that at all?
Predominantly, the deliveries are made during hours. They're just made off-peak hours.
Okay.
And they're made normally in that drive-through bypass lane, so outside of the queuing lanes. But it's a fairly quick process. The deliveries twice a week. They last about 35, 45 minutes at the truck stop.
That's like an 18-wheeler or a smaller box truck?
Typically, depending on the location, in some cases, yes, it is an 18-wheeler. In most cases, it's a box truck, 26 feet long, single axle. But it varies just depending on where
Yeah.
the location is.
I mean, it sounds like, not to belabor the point, but it sounds like Seven Brew's taking the position that you're harming basically your own business by loading during open hours.
We obviously do
Yeah,
not.
so
do not
you
want to
know
disrupt.
when it's best to slow it, yeah, when it's slow, yeah,
Yes, sir.
that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's where that comment stands. I guess we have a little bit more discussion to do with the township engineer to clarify that. But moving on, item 4, on sheet 3.0, the exit driveway shows a left turn exit. There are concerns regarding the safety of this exit due to the difficulty of making a left turn on State Route 8 to travel south. They note that they will defer this to PennDOT, who is responsible for issuance of the highway occupancy permit. The township traffic engineer may have comments related to this also. So that item is outstanding. Our PennDOT HOP permit process continues to be ongoing. We haven't received any comments of major concern from PennDOT up to this point. It's just part of the process. They take 45 days at this point. Every time we hit the resubmit button to review and give us feedback. So it's just not a fast process, unfortunately. But we are continuing to work through that. The next step there to clarify is for us to get our updated. So we've been working with the township staff, the township traffic engineer on some additional queuing assessments and some other analysis, more recent than our previous PennDOT submission. So we are due to get our application back any day now. So we'll be submitting that to PennDOT to include as part of their driveway permit review. But unfortunately, again, that leads us to another 45-day review cycle. So
Mike, just a quick question. In light of our discussion last Thursday, the recommendation of the township's traffic engineer, and Zach Steele is in attendance tonight, was that you submit a lot of the methodologies and data that you've been collecting on your other stores and some of the things that he'd been reviewing to PennDOT. That, I assume, I mean, that was last Thursday, but I assume that has not happened then
No,
since.
and no.
Okay.
So we'll be submitting that with the next cycle.
Okay.
Which again, I expected it back by now.
Okay.
But I think I actually didn't realize the previous PennDOT system
Hmm.
would not allow them to go past the 30-day review cycle.
Hmm.
Apparently that has changed. They just revised their permitting system online. So apparently that had just changed to 45 days, which I was unfortunately not aware of. So
Okay.
we have
And-
a little bit longer to wait until we can get that application back and we can attach more items in APS.
And just to go off of something you said earlier, and correct me if I misinterpreted you, I mean, you talked about the traffic being in the realm of PennDOT, the exit from this facility being the realm of PennDOT. I mean, but as you noted before, the conditional use process, it's council who, as part of this, they consider among, public health, safety, and welfare, among these items is traffic that's included in their approval. Beyond that, through the PennDOT HOP process, the township is involved in that as well. So the analysis by our traffic engineer and the recommendations of the traffic engineer are something to be considered for that as well. So the township does have a role at the table here. It is not exclusive to
Of course.
PennDOT.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I didn't misinterpret you.
No.
Okay.
Yes, PennDOT issues the permit for the driveway, but the township has interest, obviously, explicitly in the conditional use criteria
Okay.
for public health and safety.
Thank you.
And that is understood. So I guess maybe at this point we can loop in Jason. I don't know if the council wants to get into more of the nuts and bolts of what Ryan's alluding to there with some of the things that were most recently requested by the township traffic engineer and some of the things that they've been doing to address these most recent concerns. But I would open the floor to Jason to kind of give a little bit of background on where we've been and where we continue to go with the traffic analysis that's being done for this site specifically.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Hi, this is Jason Shetler from Traffic Planning and Design. Please let me know at any time if it's difficult to hear me through here. Just wanted to very briefly go over the traffic study and the additional service rate and queuing assessments that we've done thus far. Very briefly, the access study that we've conducted, we determined the trip generation of the site. Because of the uniqueness of the site, we did not use traditional ITE methodology. We've used site-specific data using the 3 sites that were most similar to this location in Washington, Moon Township, and Latrobe. Those 3 Western Pennsylvania locations, we have transactions for 2 months. That would be January and February of 2026. And then using that data, we determined the trip generation average of those 3 locations. And as Mike has mentioned earlier, the pass-by percentages, just wanted to clarify, it's actually a bit higher than Mike has assumed here, 90% for AM and 98% for the PM peak hour. Using that data, we determined a total of 44 entering trips for the AM peak hour and 57 trips entering for the, 57 trips entering for the PM peak hour. Using that data, we've distributed the traffic using existing trips, existing traffic that we've counted along Route 8, northbound and southbound. And then we've applied those trips to those movements, both new and the pass-by trips, of which Mike was discussing earlier as well. Using this data, we've analyzed this in 2 different methods, one using the HCM methodology, and another one using sim traffic methodology. I understand that while the traffic engineer did have some comments on this, we are currently revising the results of this, so we don't want to speak in any detail right now until the traffic engineer does have time to review that. So I'll defer any of the conclusions and the results of this for levels of service standpoint. And same with the queuing assessment. I, again, don't want to speak without full review of that as well. Going into the details of the gaps, the gap analysis, this would be typically used on a corridor where it is difficult to make a left out potentially. We watched the video of existing operations to determine how difficult it would be to make a left out, what additional capacity would currently be out there. Making the left out, that would be considered a minor left turn. There is available capacity in reserve for both the AM and the PM peak hour in excess of what is currently there, meaning that the trips that are currently trying to make a left, the trips that would be making a left for the 7 group, there is enough time during those peak hours to be able to make that left turn. And then
just
one of the other major...
Put that in
yes, please.
layman's terms a little bit.
Yes.
That gap
Absolutely.
analysis is specific to, so you have a certain trip distribution on this roadway adjacent to your site. So many vehicles per day over this time period. But there are other factors such as traffic signals, which we have in play here, that will affect your ability to make a left out. So instead of just a never-ending line of cars, you actually have these gaps created by these signals that they do an actual gap study, so they review the data for the actual roadway to determine if there's enough time to get left out in an adequate number of lefts out as needed. So that's kind of what that gap study is. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Jason, but you guys actually review data from video? Is that?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, we set the camera out there. We actually watched the actual operations for these specific hours. Like you explained it very well. Basically, when you're sitting there to make a left out, you look to the left and you look to the right. The amount of time between 2 vehicles in either direction is considered a gap. So that time is the important aspect of it. For a left out, there needs to be a gap in both the northbound and the southbound direction concurrently. And we do watch that separately than just a gap for, say, for example, making a right out where there only has to be space in the northbound direction. So yes, we very specifically watch for those things, and again, the results do indicate that there's reserved capacity under existing conditions, there's more time than the additional trips that we would be adding to that left turn movement. All right, continuing on, we conducted a queuing assessment. This queuing assessment, again, we've kind of enhanced that, but the initial queuing assessment is based on the 3 locations in the area, again, Washington, Moon Township, and Latrobe. We've watched a typical Thursday and a Saturday at each of these locations, and then we've documented minute by minute, that's literally every single minute of the operational day at these locations, how many vehicles were in the queue at those moments, and we compared that with the potential space on our site. So it's not using an average of them, it's actually watching every single minute of each of these locations on a Thursday and on a Saturday. I'm sorry, on a weekday, some of which were a Tuesday or a Thursday, and then all of which also included a Saturday. The peak was 31 vehicles, which occurred for only 2 total minutes. We had 30 vehicles in the queue for 1 total minute, 29 vehicles for 3 minutes. So that's a total of 6 minutes. Otherwise, it was 28 or less vehicles, and there's only 28 vehicles for a total of 11 minutes. What that means is, of all the time that we watched over 7,740 minutes of video. It's a very fun time to watch. But after watching all that time, only 0.22% of the time did any queue exceed the 28 or more vehicles. So our conclusion to that is 99.78% of the time, there would be less than 28 vehicles within the queue. And with that in mind, the 31 vehicles is still less than the 41 vehicles we could fit completely on the site. I understand that primary 2 lanes would be 14 and 14, so it would give you 28 vehicles. However, we do have the additional space on site for 13 more vehicles on a very rarely as needed basis with a traffic management plan. And that's something that we could speak to in some more detail as well.
So this is the traffic management plan that he's referring to. So, like he said, you have, Jason, what was the maximum? 31, correct?
31 vehicles is the maximum that we've observed at any of the JCB stores.
So 31 being the worst case scenario over how many hours is that?
7,740 minutes.
So, over a considerable period of analysis and review, and that was for I guess a 2-minute period over that 7,000 some minutes, where you had 31 total vehicles. So with our site design, we can fit 28 in the queue from these 2 lanes. However, we have 13 overflow spaces available through that bypass lane. And in a pinch, the employees would direct the vehicles to utilize that space to avoid any potential safety issues. If we're backing up into that state road corridor, obviously that would be a nightmare scenario from a safety perspective, is to have vehicles backing up. We cannot allow for that under any circumstance. So we have a total of 41 net spaces we can use on this site before that scenario would happen, whereas that was not observed at any period of time to go even close to 41 total vehicles in the site. So that's the traffic management plan that I was referring to. If you want to continue, Jason.
Thank you, Mike. So in addition to this, we've done a supplemental service rate and queuing assessment. We've conducted one that was submitted on June 28th, but has since been revised based on discussions with the township traffic engineer. So I'm going to just kind of fast forward to the second round of this, which was completed earlier today, shared with the township traffic engineer approximately an hour before the meeting. Obviously I'm not expecting a review in that amount of time. But I did want to review this with everybody on the call here today, and then afterwards, as people have time to review and comment, we can have any sort of meetings as needed. But with that in mind, I was just going to very briefly go over the additional queuing assessment that we've conducted to further verify that we can accommodate the vehicles on site, and process them as needed. So we, again, focused on these 3 existing store operations in the area, Washington, Moon Township, and Latrobe. These 3 locations, we have 2 months of transaction data, again, January and February, which is consistent with the trip generation that we've since used. Using all of this time, all this data, we were able to determine the amount of vehicles that can be processed in 1 hour. We have the highest volume, the maximum volume. We have the 85th percentile volume, as well as the average volume. So for these purposes, what we want to look at here is the maximum volume that can be processed means how fast these employees are working. We assume considering unlimited demand. So if unlimited demand were to come in, how fast can these employees process these vehicles? The maximum volume is the answer to that. The 85th percentile transaction volume is a very good indicator of how fast they can generally work. And then more traditionally, the average transaction volume is probably the more typical, what would mostly occur, maybe not on that one busiest hour of the day, but in general, when you have, the typical employees and so forth. So the average transaction volume is what we're going to focus on for today's conversations. And all of this information is a comparison of the 3-site average. So those are the numbers that we have there. With that in mind, we've provided all this information in the report as well. We looked at the weekday AM peak hour, the weekday PM peak hour. We've also focused on the Saturday midday peak hour, as well as the daily peak hour. That includes any time outside of any of those periods. So if, we're talking a Tuesday at noon or a Sunday at 6 p.m. or any of these times that may not have previously been addressed. So all hours of all days are covered with this analysis. Then what we did was we determined the service rate based on this. So again, using the average, which is the most conservative way of looking at this, the 2 lanes in the AM peak hour can process a vehicle on average in 81.2 seconds. Again, that is one of the more conservative. They can go as fast as 51.2 seconds, but again, on average, the 2 lanes would be 81.2 seconds. The PM peak hour would be 62.8 seconds. Saturday would be 38.7 seconds, and the daily peak hour on average was 52.2 seconds. That would be for the site total. Using the methodology that was discussed with the Township Traffic Engineer, the stochastic procedure, this is outlined in ITE Manual of Transportation and Land Development that was published. We used the push on arrival rates and using the multiple channel system. Again, this was all discussed with the Township Traffic Engineer, which we look forward to their review on this as well. Using this methodology and using the predicted arrival volumes, that would be the trip generation based on the same 2-month period, and these rates, we've determined the average queuing, the 99th percentile queue, for the AM peak hour to be approximately 6 vehicles, the PM peak hour to be approximately 7, Saturday midday peak hour to be 7 vehicles, and the daily peak hour, this is using the absolute average highest observed of any of the 3 sites to be 24 vehicles. So that again is the 99th percentile to be 24 vehicles. Now, we've also gone above and beyond with a sensitivity analysis to determine how many vehicles would have to go to the site to exceed the 28 vehicle storage on site without using the bypass lane. During the AM peak hour, you'd have to process 76 vehicles. In the PM, you'd have to process 98 vehicles. Saturday, 158 vehicles would have to come to the site. And the daily would have to be 118 vehicles. Again, this is using the average service rate. We've also looked at if they were to use all 41 spaces on site, how many vehicles would it take to fill that up? And it's 80 during the AM peak hour, 103 during the weekday PM peak hour, 166 using the Saturday midday peak hour, and 124 using the daily peak hour. Again, that's the average service rate. Lastly, we also looked at an assessment where all 3 lanes would be able to be serviced. That would be assuming using the traffic management plan where they would say, okay, we need to have drinks for all 3 lanes and orders for all 3 lanes. By using that methodology, you would have to have more than 120 vehicles arrive during the AM peak hour, 154 during the weekday PM peak hour, 249 vehicles during the Saturday midday peak hour, and 186 during the daily peak hour. Basically, the conclusion to all of this is we personally believe that the real-world queuing observations is more indicative of the 7-Brew operations, considering they have them open in the area. We've observed significant amount of hours at these locations. However, we have also conducted this theoretical queuing assessment, which we have less than 28 vehicles as the conclusion as well. So at this time, this is pretty much the summary of the queuing and service rate assessment that we've conducted.
All right, thank you, Jason. So sometimes that can be painful. However, I think it's really necessary to kind of understand the situation and the concern. Obviously, it's very real for the site to not be able to hold the full amount of people that might come. These sites are new; there's some novelty to them with the younger crowd, especially, and they tend to generate some buzz, especially when they first open. So I guess the intent or the purpose of all of that, while it's a lot of information and it might not seem super pertinent, but I think the bottom line is the ability is there to get these vehicles through the drive-through in almost any capacity that you look at it. Actually, in any capacity we have reviewed it and been asked to review it, that the site does not spill out into the state road. So I think that's the main takeaway from this. Obviously, this isn't the end of that conversation. It's ongoing, and your traffic engineer has not had adequate time to review these latest revisions. So I want to be really clear on that. But that's the summary of our findings up to this point. So take that for what you will. Those conversations are continuing on, and we intend to address any concerns that continue to arise as best we can throughout this conversation. So are there, before I move on, are there any specific questions from council while we have Jason? I think we'll let him drop off after this, but while he's here, while we're on the topic, is there any specific questions as to anything we've done so far, calculation-wise or analysis-wise or otherwise, with regards to traffic and traffic safety and where that's been and where it's going?
Just from me, sorry, maybe 2 things. Just point of clarification. On the first one, 41 spaces, that excludes parking spaces. We're just saying
Correct.
the
Correct.
drive-through
That's
and the
only
overflow.
the drive aisles that are
Okay.
effectively only.
I just wanted to make sure
used
we weren't talking about parking spaces. I didn't want to get them confused. From 7-Brew perspective of the 800 stores, maybe what's the busiest month of the year and what's the slowest? On
I've used that
average.
one before.
The busiest month, they
Probably
seem to.
opening.
Absolutely, the opening is the busiest month that we have at any of these locations.
Yeah.
Typically lasts for about 3 weeks to a month, right after we first open, and after that, we see the volumes decreasing by 50% after that first month. But it's pretty steady business every day of every month, the entire year. Once we develop a pattern, we can foresee what's happening, when the rushes are coming, and gear up for those rushes. But we have specials the 7th day of every month. We gear up for those. We basically double the staff at each of these locations that handle those rushes. But we have specials now and again throughout the month. I don't know that there's one particular month that is heavier than another.
I just wanted to ask. I thought it was probably pretty steady. I mean,
It is.
people drink coffee every day.
It is pretty steady. One of the surprising things to me is, you think coffee, that the morning would be the bigger rush.
I was
It's actually the
surprised
evening.
about that, yeah.
The evening is the bigger rush.
Mhm.
We see a decrease in volume, people who come home from work as opposed to going home.
many people typically staff, you know, a location like this? Is it?
So whenever we open a store, we will hire 75 people to staff the stores.
Wow.
They target 18 to 24-year-olds, and the length of the
Employment.
I'm trying to say, the length of the time that they're there is 4-hour shifts. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Yeah, wow.
So it's a 4-hour shift, and then we switch over and bring fresh people in for 4-hour shifts. So the whole idea is to have upbeat, everybody on their game. It's fast-paced. The business model is from the time you make your order to the time you get your drink, it's 4 minutes. So that's the target that we try for. We obviously, with the information that you just heard from Jason, we're obviously hitting those numbers consistently. Typically 2 to 3 minutes, and you have your product and you're gone. But 75 people to start with. Whenever we have rushes, the peaks, we can staff up to 22 people at a time at the store to handle those big loads. So we've been doing it for a couple of years now, so we're getting better at it, and operations is really clued into what we need in order to take care of these big volumes in the afternoons, and we're doing it.
What's your first name?
My name is Bob.
Bob, Dan. Say it there. Dan. Yeah. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So do you want to touch on, I guess the training that these employees get up front?
Typically, whenever we start or open one of these new stands, we have traffic consultants come in and handle the loads in that first month. As they set up traffic patterns, then they train the employees that are on site to follow this program once they have it established. When we have big specials and we know that we're going to have big loads, we'll bring that traffic consultant back in to help with the traffic control. But typically, the employees will help the traffic consultants direct traffic. They're out in the lanes taking orders and delivering drinks, and they've become familiar with what those patterns look like and how to direct the traffic on an ongoing basis. But they're very well versed. After the first couple of times into traffic control, people are on site. The employees are very well versed in how those patterns look and how to accomplish keeping everybody moving through the site with as little backup as possible.
Just to be clear, the target age range for your employees is 18 to 24,
18 to
correct?
24.
18 to 24. Are they, the training they receive is not to the level of like a flagger, for example, or someone who has an actual certification in directing traffic, correct?
No, sir.
Okay,
No, sir.
thank you.
Most of the people training them are certified.
That is correct.
Yes.
The traffic consultants that we have are certified,
I'm
state
sure.
certified, yes. And we do bring them back whenever we have large events and we're going to have big volumes of cars on site.
Okay.
So my biggest concern is the left-hand turn. So I'm wondering if, and Jason, I think, touched on this gap analysis of, you know, the time that the cars are, I guess, north and southbound and when you can actually take a left. Can you expand on that? Because my biggest concern is that you have a bunch of novice drivers who are also impatient. I'm mostly thinking of the high school students in the morning that are going to come by and get coffee. And I'm pretty concerned about that left-hand turn of those kids. Because that you're up on Route 8, they have to turn left to go back to the high school.
And that would be in the mornings.
Yes.
And
And then you got a bunch of traffic coming down from Butler because they're all going into Pittsburgh to work.
Right, and that's where the majority of the traffic in the AM is coming south. So you don't have, you have a reduced amount of cars that you have to combat going north to try to get across in front of to go back to the south. So the gaps, I think Jason probably can answer this. Are you still online, Jason?
Yes, thank you for the question. As for the gaps, to go into some detail on that, for the left turn out, as we said earlier, you know, we look at both approaches, both northbound and southbound. In the morning, as there's more vehicles going southbound, that would mean that there's less vehicles going northbound to compete with that time. But what we looked at was it takes 7.7 seconds of space between two vehicles to make that left out, and two vehicles can make that time in 10 seconds. That is a PennDOT standard, and that is an accepted practice. So using that methodology of 7.7 seconds for one vehicle, 10 seconds for the two vehicles, and so forth, we determined that in the morning, we can make 84 lefts out using the hour that we watched this, and we are anticipating 26 vehicles to make that movement. So we have more than enough capacity to allow those vehicles to make the left out. Another important aspect of this is the sight distance as well. Mike summarized that very well earlier. We do meet the minimum sight distances set forth by PennDOT, so they will have enough sight looking to the left and looking to the right to be able to make that maneuver. We also look at the PM peak hour, of which there are more vehicles going northbound, but at the same time, we have the capacity available for 42 vehicles, and we have 26 vehicles that we're anticipating to make a left. Now, all of this is to say that some people may not like the idea of making that left. In that case, maybe they're not going to come to the 7th group. It's always the path of least resistance. Maybe they'll say, you know what, I don't feel like making the left in the left out. It's annoying. I don't know how many times I've driven past the gas station that I'll say, you know what, I'll go to the next one that's going to be on my side of the road. There's not 7 brews everywhere right now, but there is a lot of coffee in a lot of different places. This is just a very independent perspective that if people don't like making the left, they're not going to constantly make that if they don't feel comfortable doing so. Although the results do show that there is sufficient capacity for people to still make that left turn.
But has that gap data ever been broken down to look at variances in experience in driving? Does it take younger drivers longer to make that left turn than it takes experienced drivers?
Absolutely. So this is broken down. There's a level 1 to a level 10. You have, the 16-year-old guy that wants to make that movement as fast as possible and is the most aggressive, up to your 9-year-old grandma that probably shouldn't be having a license. It might take 3 minutes to make a left, potentially. But with that in mind, this is considered an average. So you don't look at it for only 16-year-olds or only 95-year-olds. You look at it as an average overall, and that average is the number that PennDOT does publish, and that's what the critical and the follow-up headways are called. That's what the 7.7 and the 2.8 seconds are included.
We're going to finish with the questions from council first, and then we'll open it up to the public. He says he's got a comment on this topic. Do we want to allow public comment now or wait until we're done with this part?
I would just
Wait,
say,
okay.
yeah, if we are going to do that, I would like to.
Remember your comment and bring it up in a little bit, please, when we open it for the public.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. Have you looked at what your bottleneck will be? Are you able to get cars to make a left out of here faster than you're able to serve coffee, or are we going to have cars backing up, trying to make their left while people are waiting to get through the service window?
That's a good question. Jason, you did look at that specifically, I believe. Did you hear that?
Yes, that's correct. Thanks, Mike. So with that in mind, we're still working through the final assessment of how long it would take to make a left in terms of time. We're approximating between maybe 35 to 100 some seconds on that. And again, I do want to defer to the township traffic engineer and understand that is not a final number. I do look forward to their review of our updated study. However, we believe approximately half the people will be making a left and half the people will be making a right. Using the service rate of how long it takes for people to get their drink, the time it will take to get their drink will likely, much more likely take longer than it will take to make a left turn there, based on the existing sites. So we do not believe that people will be getting their drink and then being backed up by the left turn out nearly as much so as the backup would much more likely be the on-site operations. But with that in mind, remember the conclusion of the amount of queuing on site would not spill back. So we don't believe any conclusions to any of our analyses show that there will be more than about 3 vehicles, approximately 2 to 3 vehicles, making that left out at any time. And the bottleneck would likely be getting the drinks to the people more so than the left out.
And that's based on the actual gap study data, is that correct?
the gap study data and the other analyses, the actual level of service analyses, again, I don't want to include anything yet until we do the final review on that.
Right.
And if you don't mind, I would, if we're going to talk about the left turning movement, Zach Steele has been here. He's been patiently waiting for an hour. I do want to give him time to offer rebuttal based on his review, specifically his June 30th letter, if you do not mind. Zach, if you don't mind coming up. Zach, I wanted to draw, and I have the letter in front of me. I can certainly give it to you. You noted, as part of your review of the access study, comment to deficient level of services anticipated for the left turn movement on the egress-only driveway during the AM and PM peak hours, resulting in unacceptable level of service for the approach. This is utilizing the highway capacity manual methodology. The deficient level of service recorded at the egress must be addressed. But you also took that modeling that they did and that gap analysis they did as well and incorporated that into your review, and it still meant a deficient level of service, correct? Or go ahead.
If I can provide
go ahead.
clarification. So TBD evaluated the egress driveway utilizing two different types of methodologies, as Jason suggested. One being using the highway capacity manual, which is the standardized calculations when determining levels of service and delay. The other being sim traffic simulations, which actually uses driver behaviors as well as upstream signal gaps to try to simulate how traffic operations would be along Route 8. In review of their analysis using the highway capacity manual, levels of service are similar to a school's grading system. It's from A, level service A, to level service F. In urbanized conditions, the minimum level of service is level service D, and that's specifically at unsignalized intersections, where the delay is less than 35 seconds for a particular movement. When utilizing the highway capacity manual for that left turn movement, it was projected to operate at level service F, I believe, during both peak hours, where the delay, I believe, was around 180, 190 seconds. So we're looking at approximately, on average, having to wait 3 minutes or so to make a left-hand turn. When analyzing the same egress driveway using the sim traffic simulations, TPD performed simulations, like I said, and they ran numerous simulations. I believe they ran 5 simulations, and what it does is it averages the delay of that movement for those 5 simulations, and based on their analysis, it just met the acceptable levels of service and delay. I believe it was around 35 seconds. Based on our most recent review, we noted a volume error that may actually impact that final analysis for sim traffic, which could potentially put into deficient levels of service. We believe that the actual operations of that left turn movement would be somewhere in between the sim traffic simulations, which indicated the minimum level of service, acceptable levels of service for a movement, and that failing level of service, that 180 seconds. Based on the levels of service that were projected, as well as the relatively low gap reserve, I know, Jason, they performed a gap analysis where they noted that there was a capacity of 42 vehicles or 42 gaps, and they were projecting 26 left turns. That would, of course, have a remaining reserve about 16. So there's a reserve of 16 gaps. Considering the low gap reserve, the projected levels of service, it was recommended that this left turn or this egress be redesigned as a right out only to physically restrict left turns out to make it as safe as possible, knowing that there would be deficient levels of service, which also impacts driver behavior and the risks that they will take to try to perform a maneuver that may not be safe, considering that Route 8 is also a 4-lane undivided highway with a 40 miles per hour speed limit. We thought it necessary to make this recommendation for the safety of the corridor and those exiting the development.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council for me?
Does PennDOT have what's PennDOT say in this? You know what I mean? Like, what's
The
their
latest,
interest?
I believe the latest comment letter from PennDOT deferred to the comment letter that Trans Associates produced, but I don't believe they added anything specific, but just deferred and had nothing to add to our comments.
Does PennDOT have to give a permit to allow?
Access onto their highway and roadway system, yes.
Do they factor in traffic, or what's their? Do we
PennDOT
know what their
PennDOT,
analysis is?
per their highway occupancy permit process, they do, they will provide a review of any traffic analysis or a traffic study that is submitted. And whether they give an approval or not, I think the correct language now is that they concur with the observations and conclusions, not necessarily give an approval or denial, but will say that they concur, whether they
So
will.
them issuing the highway occupancy permit is not saying, we think this is safe.
Well, the highway occupancy permit in the design comes after the traffic study or access study approval or concurrence. Typically, if the access study is not approved or it does not gain concurrence from the department, it typically does not move on to the highway occupancy permit process. But I believe the applicant is actually doing both concurrently at this point. So they'd have to approve, I shouldn't say approve, excuse me, they'd have to concur with the conclusions of the access study and then ultimately approve of the design for the driveway. And that's when the highway occupancy permit is issued.
So a right-hand turn only basically would say, you're going down Neal to the traffic light and you turn.
Yeah, it would
to go
defer
the other
everyone
direction.
northbound onto Route 8 and
Or down to Woodland, or whatever that street is, down to McNeil and coming up to Route 8 to continue going
Correct.
south again.
Well, so the post office that's just a little bit south has a sign that says you're not to take a left-hand turn. No one pays attention to it.
Oh,
Or they
so
zip through the
they
bank
use
on the other
Citizens
side.
Bank.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, sometimes they'll do that, but I mean, like no one pays attention to that. They're taking their left-hand turn.
They can take a left.
It says you're not supposed
I
to.
know, but physically able to take the left-hand turn.
Mhm, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even like to take a left-hand turn off of like Macaulay when all the kids are coming into school. You know, I go down to Rosanna and Hearts Run Road to use the light.
Mhm.
It's like because the traffic in the morning, and I can't even imagine when it's like up further up Route 8 because even down on Hearts Run Road, it's like really busy.
But this plan seems to give people that option if they only feel safer to take the right-hand turn.
Yeah, but it's kids getting coffee in the morning. They just want to do what's fastest.
Very little experience driving.
Yeah, they just want to do what's fastest because they got to get to class. I don't know. That's the way I feel about it. But
I just, I'm not their parent. I don't know where the line is. Like, I understand the traffic. It's a tough one. I'm not going to suppose what a 17 or 18 or a 16-year-old's experience is or patience is. I think they're old enough to make those decisions or with their parents. I mean, we send kids to war at 18, so they could drive Route 8.
And we're still waiting on a lot of information from PennDOT and from
Yes.
different reviews, so
And
we really have
you have
kind
not
of
had a
part
chance
of the
to
story.
review the latest letter.
That is correct. I received TPD's latest queuing assessment and service rate assessment at 7 o'clock this evening. So,
Yeah.
I actually didn't realize I received it until Ryan actually told me. So we still have to review the newest submissions. We are also reviewing currently the land development plans as well, that we hope to have our review next week regarding those, our comments regarding the overall site plan and traffic circulation throughout.
All right, thank you. Did anyone have any more
Yeah,
questions?
I mean, I don't know
for
who to direct this to, if it's Bob, Jason, Mike, maybe all three. So if I'm just looking up here at the screen, the way that's laid out there. Oh, okay, it's over there too. So right now we're talking about leaving Seven Brew. So up there we have, you can make a left, you have like the left segregated, then you have a right, which is kind of turns you to the right. I would think it would be pretty hard to make a left from that right lane. So two options on that. I think we already talked about the post office and other things. Putting up a sign, and I don't know the answer to this, putting up a sign that says no left then becomes a driver's choice. And if they make that left with this kind of design, it becomes a finable offense. Is that a fair
Yes.
statement?
But now you also need to keep in mind that this is not the only scenario on Route 8 that people are turning left.
Oh, right. Oh, I know. Yeah.
On the east side of the road,
Yep.
going south.
I would add,
It
this,
happens all the way up and down Route 8.
this is a unique business, though, and it's drive-through exclusive. And there is no other business like this that I'm currently aware of in Hampton.
I agree with you there.
Yes.
And this is one of those situations where it's gonna work itself out whenever the customers start coming. If it's too difficult to make a left out here, they will go right and go up and make a U-turn and come back.
There's options for that. But if I can continue forward, so the way we have this, right, we can put a sign up, or you put a sign up that says no left turn. And then
Only
people make a decision, illegal, not legal, that's on them.
Only from the right-hand exit.
No, just like this, like there's a left, well, yeah, you would have to change
Yeah.
that, so it doesn't look
Yeah,
that way.
Yeah.
because if you
Yeah.
put that up
Yeah.
there, it says this is a left turn lane.
And have a 90-degree.
Yeah, that was my question, like what's your position, I guess, Bob?
position is
If it's a no left turn, how does Seven Brew feel about that?
If I'm restricted to a right out
Yes.
only, this will not happen.
Okay,
This development will go away.
just because of a left,
Yes.
why? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Corporate will not approve,
Okay.
will not let us construct this if it is a right out only.
Okay.
They feel that it is going to affect the business significantly, and they will not give us support to build this.
Okay.
So it's full access, enter and exit, or there's no Seven Brew.
And that, one of,
We feel like, now, we've done a huge amount of analysis, all the traffic studies we've been requested to, we've gone through all of this
Yep,
process.
yep.
We feel it's safe. We don't wanna build something that's not safe. We feel that this is safe, that this is not a unique situation on Route 8.
When you first open, and you said, I think, the amount of patrons you have is 50% more than what you would normally have once it dies down, right?
A large amount.
Do you plan on having traffic consultants on site for those,
Yes.
that initial month or whatever?
Yes. We've already contracted, they will be there, we can provide you with the contracts, they will be on site.
Thank you.
And we also contact the local police department, we try to get them involved, police department, off-duty officers, to see if we can incorporate them into this traffic control process during that first initial rush. A lot of townships allow, a lot will not. We check and make sure and try to cooperate with the local police department as much as possible.
I don't understand how involvement of the local police department would make a difference with the amount of traffic going in and out. We're not gonna ask them to restrict traffic on Route 8.
No, we just asked them to help with traffic control. If they're allowed to do so, we incorporate them and we pay them to come out and help with traffic control. In addition to the traffic consultants that we have on site.
It is something we talked about. So we had met staff had pretty in-depth discussion, similar to what we all heard from Jason and from Zach. And the conclusion is there's more or less a range of what's considered acceptable and not acceptable as far as the duration of time it's going to take that left turn out. And like Zach said, in all reality, probably maybe fall somewhere in the middle of that range. The ultimate reality is it might take, it'll take some time sometimes to take that left turn out. So I think from a safety perspective, there's that impatience factor, but there's also that queuing factor, which we can control. So there's concern of what happens to that queue. Like Bob said, there are certified traffic controllers that they use when the store opens. If that's something that would address some of the concern in that regard, obviously this is a conditional use. The township may attach certain conditions that they deem necessary. So if that's a real thing that we can attach a condition to, that the certified traffic consultants need to be on site during the first, while the store is a novelty and before things are normalized, to have that traffic control on site to address any, influxes that aren't quote unquote normal. That's something we would certainly consider the efforts of being as safe as possible here. Some of their other sites are in shopping centers where it's not as big of a concern, where it spills out and it's maybe somebody can't get to a parking spot or something. Whereas here, obviously, there's real traffic concern on the state road, which we also share that same concern. So if that would address some of that concern, that's something we can put into practice in reality, to help ensure that there's not a backup issue onto the state route with actual certified folks that kind of know what they're doing before these newer staff are trained up on that process and to give some sort of certification, not just a loose promise, but an actual condition that can be enforced if it's not being upheld.
One additional thing is, this is not, we're not talking about an all-day scenario that this happens. We've got a peak rush hour in the morning and a peak rush hour in the evening. Those are the two times that you're gonna have difficulty turning left out of the side. We've suggested that, if it looks like we're stacking too much on site and it's, because people are trying to turn left, it's starting to stack up on site and it looks like we're getting ready to spill out onto Route 8, we close down that left turn lane for a certain amount of time until that queue comes back down again. We're willing to do something like that. I mean, we don't want this to be an unsafe scenario, but to have no left turn out of there for the entire time that we're open, from the morning to the night, is unreasonable. There are measures that we can take to prevent those two peak hours from spilling out and causing an unsafe condition. We're certainly going to look at all scenarios, signage, temporary cones up on that left turn out during those hours whenever it's the most traffic is on the road. We're open to anything, but
So if we were to propose as a condition of use to restrict, not just on a temporary with cones basis, but say Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m., no left turn, and whatever your peak hour is in the evening, is that something that Seven Brew would find acceptable because it's not a permanent ban on a left-hand turn, it's just a couple of hours a day?
I would certainly entertain a proposal of that sort. I'd like to hear what the specifics are before I agree.
And the only point I would make to council is ultimate enforcement of that restriction would fall on our police department.
Yes.
Well, it would fall on
So,
me ultimately.
yes.
If I agree to it, then it's up to me to enforce it.
But yes,
But-
there is nothing, as you pointed out,
Yeah.
for a high
There's no
school, for
teeth.
anybody to say, you know what, I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well, and the staff there can't make a citizen's arrest or anything. It's our
No.
police that will be doing the enforcement.
If we do block off that left turn lane
Yeah.
and somebody makes a left from the right
Yeah.
lane, we can't stop that from
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Just like we can't stop speeders and we can't
Mhm.
stop anybody from turning left out of the post office, but we can certainly make an concerted effort on our part, to put up signage, put up cones, on a temporary basis. We're absolutely open to looking at that scenario.
So when you look at like the shopping center, like Hampton Beer Outlet and Caliente's, they're sort of in the same position, right? That's we have people taking lefts out of there.
Well, sure.
But they have dine-in,
But-
those are
but-
dine-in
but
facilities.
one car at a time, not a whole queue of cars
Yeah.
trying to.
So is the issue the fact that somebody's gonna feel antsy because they got somebody behind them, or is it
That
just,
and the volume.
are we still worried about, is it just, like, I know at one point the issue was cars spilling out on Route 8, but I think that issue is kind of been addressed. Yeah, I think that is not really the concern right now, it's just simply the left-hand turn.
Left-hand turn.
Yeah. I think that is still pending the review of the traffic engineer based on what they received tonight, obviously. And in terms of the left turn out, I would defer to the traffic engineer, but also highlight that, I know we're talking about age of drivers and whatever. Focus on hard data is generally how I do it with traffic analysis and simulations, so.
Anyone else have any questions?
We talked a lot about the left out.
Mhm.
Did we talk or look at the left in?
That's
Zach,
what all
do you-
of the queuing data is about, and I'm convinced that you all know how to handle
Yeah.
the traffic on site so that we're not going to back up with people trying to turn left into.
Like
Yeah,
that
if
are-
somebody
sees it's full, they're not gonna try to
Yeah.
hang out on Route 8.
Yeah.
Zach, did you want to comment just on what your analysis saw on that? Or your review on that?
Well, then they can just go to Starbucks. It's just down the road.
Yeah.
We concurred with their left-in analysis. There's sufficient sight distance looking ahead, looking behind.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be indicative of any safety issue. Like I said, there's plenty of sight distance. There would be relatively low, insignificant queuing for the inside lane to make that left turn, and a insignificant delay, I believe, attributed to that left turn movement as well, I believe. If you're looking for a letter grade, it would be level service A, I believe, from what I recall.
Thank you. Thanks, Zach.
All right, anyone up here have any more questions for either Zach or for the applicant?
No, I just want to see the additional traffic
Yes,
Mhm.
likewise.
analyses, yeah.
All right, so at this point, I would like to open it up for the public. You'll need, anybody who would like to say anything, please come up to the podium, state your name and address, and then ask your question or state your concern.
Sure. John Parrish, 3007 Chestnut Street. I would just kind of respond to Bethany's question there, or comment. To me, I go up there from all the time, going up to here, okay? And I always turn right and go the back way, because the light, at Route 8 and Wildwood, or going through is much more time consuming to me, and sitting, in traffic, where I turn right and I go back and I take, Middle Road, and it's not an issue from that standpoint. So that's all I was trying to say was, I do this almost every other day, okay? And I ignore going left, I go right because it's easier for me. Then I'm going to the high school or I'm going to, up to here, okay, from that standpoint. Another comment was, just when we talk about the north and south, the evening traffic where there's a peak, the bulk of people are coming up from the south going north.
Mhm.
And they're gonna turn right going
Good.
north. So to me, the evening one is not as dramatic
Agreed.
as the daylight would be, because the bulk of people they're gonna turn right. So it's, just a thought from that standpoint.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's
Thank
a good
you.
point.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Laria. My address is 3607 West Stack Drive. About the driving situation going to the high school, I just graduated 2 years. I went to Starbucks almost every single day of the week, and that turn is much more aggressive than this turn. You're crossing 3 lanes of traffic from a yield sign. People do not let you over. I would feel much more comfortable going here in the morning and crossing 2 empty lanes of traffic rather than trying to cut people off to get in a turn lane that fits maybe 6 cars. And this is all of Route 8. I feel much safer doing that, and also people are at discretion of if they want to turn left or go right. There's those 2 roads to the right. You can come all the way around, and it's much faster than trying to turn at that light that only holds 6 cars in the morning. So I just do think that, like, during the rest of the time, it's kind of unfair to close that left turn off, because I would want to go in the afternoon too. Like, I want 7 Brew to be here. I'm excited for that, so I just feel like it's unfair to say, oh, young drivers are going to get in accidents. Adults get into accidents all the time on Route 8 too. It's not just teenagers.
Oh, yeah.
And that turn is much more safe to make in the morning than from Starbucks. That's my main concern.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, good point, thank you.
1 second, something that you said, you can sit down, it's okay, but I'm picking up on what you said, because my daughter is in high school and does go to Starbucks every day. And, one thing that, she talks to me about is, it is hard to make that turn over, but when she's leaving Starbucks, even at that light, people ignore and block the box all the time.
Yeah.
And so she's forced as now a 17-year-old to try to maneuver around cars that are inside the intersection to get up Tally-Cavey to go the back way. And there's been some close calls, so I'm not sure, because people are running the lights and blocking the box.
Yeah.
So, I see your
We
point.
should redo that intersection.
Huh?
We should redo that.
We really
Yeah.
should. But I absolutely get your point. I know what you're saying. Everybody's got to be careful no matter where you are.
Yeah.
My name is Diane Annis Dixon, and I live at 3548 West Stag Drive. A couple comments I wanted to make is somebody, I can't remember who, said about it takes 3 minutes sometimes to get out of currently Simply Subs to make a left. It can take up to 3 minutes. In my 8 years of working there, it's never taken me 3 minutes to turn left or right out of Simply Subs. Granted, 7 Brew is going to be the new shiny gadget, right? And people are going to want to try it. But I think somebody else said, if I'm going to try it and I'm trying to turn left in right, and I can't make that in the amount of time that I'm comfortable with, I'm passing it up. I've done that to different places. I can't get in there, whatever, I'll go another time. And I think majority of people will do that. And one other comment I had about the whole left turn situation is, you're right, the post office does say no left turn. I want to address that for a minute. I have a relative who works high up in the post office, and I said, oh yeah, the post office, and they said, wait a minute. Every post office, and I never thought about this, every post office will not allow you to make a left-hand turn. It's not just on Route 8. But every other business on Route 8 can turn left. Except maybe somebody said Citizens, but I don't go there, so I wouldn't know. If Citizens doesn't allow you to turn left, I don't know. But the post office, and you're right, people are gonna turn left and see if they don't get caught. I've been behind people who have turned left, and I'm thinking, turn right. But anyways, those are my comments. As a resident of Hampton, we've had Pizza Hut closed, we've had Burger King closed, we've had KFC closed. Don't we want something new and viable? I mean, holy moly, they're gonna hire 75 people. That's a lot of employment for Hampton, and that's a lot of money generated for Hampton. So, yes, and I think they seem, they've got 800 stores across the country, and they seem like they're responsible, and they've been working at this for 10 months now. You know, every which way study you guys needed, they've done, and they want it to be safe because they don't want to be labeled, oh, that's the business that come in, and now we have all kind of wrecks on Route 8. They want safety just like the rest of us do. And I would only implore and hope that you all would take that into consideration, that Hampton could use the money generated from their business. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, since.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, I was going to ask the developer, in light of the fact Planning Commission has yet to make a recommendation on this, if we continue the hearing to next month, are you willing to grant an extension? Or are you willing to ask for an extension to the end of next month? Because there's no way, we don't have, as you even stated, in the conditional use process requires recommendation from Planning Commission. We don't have that yet.
That's right. We
Yeah.
don't have it yet. Does that, if we do give the extension and you guys do table us for another month, does that prevent us from going to the planning commission meeting on Monday?
No.
It doesn't.
That actually, that's the whole point, is for you to go before Planning Commission and, yes.
No, I have no problem with the extension.
Continue the public hearing to the 12th. The extension to the end of August 31.
Well, yeah, they have to, yeah. Yeah.
All right, last call for any other commentary? All right, then can I get a motion to continue the public hearing for 7 Brew until our August 12th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Midgley?
Favor.
Mr. Sholey?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
Is there anything else? Michelle, do we need anything else?
You put the extension on, that was like the extension on the record.
Okay.
All right, then, any other business?
None.
All right, then we will adjourn this portion of the meeting and continue with our regularly scheduled meeting. Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Mike. Thanks, Bob.
Hey, administration.
All right, thanks, Jason.
Recognize Rob Emerson. Rob, thanks for coming tonight, and Mark Dutzel, the township's auditor.
Okay, my name is Sarah Reed, and I was the manager on the audit of Hampton Township this year. As part of our audit process, we issue the DCD report for the state, as well as the legal advertisement by April 1st, and then your full accrual financial statements, and this communication of those charged with governance letter by the end of June for your debt compliance. So I'm going over the communication to those charged with governance letter tonight. The letter states that our responsibility as your auditors is to use the auditing standards generally accepted in the United States to express an opinion as to whether your financial statements are fairly presented in material respects. What we issued for your financial statements was considered an unmodified or a clean opinion, so in the auditing world, that is the type of opinion you would want to receive. That means your financial statements are fairly presented as they were issued at the end of June. It's our responsibility to also plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable but not absolute assurance. That just means we don't test 100% of what your transactions are for the year. It's a sample basis, it's a materiality basis. And we also consider your internal controls. If you have good internal controls that appear to be working, we will rely on them, and the opposite if you don't. I will note we don't issue a management letter this year for Hampton Township, so that means that we didn't come across anything internal control related that would require us to write that and communicate it to you now. So that's a good thing. It means your control process is working without us expressing an opinion on it to the extent that we needed to utilize it. As far as your financial statements go, your significant accounting policies are all consistent with the prior year. Your accounting estimates and disclosures that are sensitive relate to your pension and OPEBs, consistent with the past. It's just because it's based on an actuarial analysis. We get that analysis, we look at the data, we look at the assumptions as we put it into your financial statements. And everything seemed to be consistent with prior years and what we would expect from a township of your size. We didn't have any difficulties encountered in performing our audit. Management and staff always provide us everything we need while we're here and also once we leave. And I understand that is a lot to ask on top of their normal day-to-day jobs. So we appreciate that every year. As far as corrected and uncorrected misstatements, management corrected all audit adjustments that we had, none of which were considered material to your financial statements individually or in total. Management did not disagree with any financial accounting, reporting, or auditing matter that we had. At the end of our audit, they signed a management representation letter taking responsibility for the financials and stating that they gave us everything we needed to form our opinion. And then we are not aware of management consulting with any other auditors. So essentially, the major takeaways from the audit this year are that you had a clean audit opinion, no significant changes from the prior year, great cooperation from your staff, and then no written management letter as far as any internal control deficiencies or major adjustments we had to make your financial statements be where they needed to for accounting principles. Any questions?
Does not appear so.
Jerry?
And I read it all.
Yeah,
Yes, you
okay.
did.
That's great. That's good. Okay, well, thanks for having me here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank
Sorry
you
to
for
take it
coming,
all,
and
take it all.
thank you for sitting through the public hearing.
Yeah.
Right. Item B.
Try to rush through these as quickly as I can. The Knox Box ordinance was discussed previously with Hampton, not only at the strategic planning meeting this year with council, but actually it was considered by council in the fall of 2019. It didn't move forward. I actually found the draft copy of that ordinance just earlier tonight, and Michelle gave me a Word copy of it. Knox Box, for those who don't know, it's a lock box that's on the side of a building. It holds keys to the building that can only be accessed by a master key that's held most often by a fire department, though to a lesser extent police as well will have them, or EMS. It allows access to the facility in case of an emergency or alarm. Without a Knox Box, emergency staff must wait until someone arrives to open the building, or they have to use a universal door opening mechanism that's less delicate than a key. This can lead to claims against the insurance of the public safety entity that is entering the facility. What you guys all got in your packet, I gave you copies of the O'Hara Township and McCandless Knox Box ordinances. Since taking over as Fire Marshal Code Enforcement Officer, Al Cohen's actually doubled the number of Knox boxes in the township, but it's simply by his recommendation or conditions we placed on developments like Detroit Switch when they came in on Wildwood Road, for example. Knox boxes are an accepted public safety practice now for well over a decade, and the presence of them is actually a factor in the ISO ratings that communities received. The ordinance before council previously required all commercial and multifamily properties in Hampton to install a Knox box within 6 months of the enactment of that ordinance. The McCandless and O'Hara ordinances are 12 to 18 months. The reality is, when we examine this internally, myself, Aaron, Al Cohen, the reality is it's difficult on businesses to do it that way, and administratively it's challenging to implement. We don't keep a list of every single business owner and who owns the property, and frankly that can get us into all types of landlord-tenant issues. We try to implement it. When we talked about this internally, we felt the best way to proceed would have the Knox box requirement for installation be at the change of occupancy of these properties as the properties turn over, because they're already required to come to us. It's an administrative process where they have to come to us and get a new occupancy permit, and it would be much easier pill to swallow in the course of business in that sense, as opposed to Al reaching out to every business and requiring them to install a Knox box. So that's kind of the direction we'd like to go with this, if council would be amenable to it. I don't know if there's any objections offhand. I know, again, I think that requirement of a time frame is just, it's tough on the businesses, and beyond that, implementing it is a lot harder than it sounds. So.
Makes sense. What's the approximate cost? I think last
About
I remember,
$500
about
bucks.
$500 bucks.
Yeah.
And that's borne completely by the business.
Yes.
Is there, how do I say this? I like what you're saying. Is there a way to discount that? We have no control to discount
don't.
that for people that want to do it early. In other words.
We do not.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The only
Okay. Just trying to think of a way to help speed it up.
I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, there was, I would say this, at the change of occupancy though, if it's on the building, it's on the building forever. So the next time someone comes in, it's already there. So I think this is a more sort of deliberate way of doing it. But I don't know. Aaron, you have any strong thoughts on it?
I would just mention that a change of occupancy, generally for any business, you have startup costs. $500 is pretty minimal.
That's what I was thinking
Yeah.
too.
As far
I'd
as
agree.
business startup cost. And one of the things, just adding on to what Ryan said, I think that one of the issues with implementing a Knox box ordinance and requiring everyone to come in compliance is that, yeah, I mean, like, how are we gonna track that? How are we gonna, you know, kind of like enforce that on everyone? And it would actually, to be honest, it would be impossible for my staff to be able to do that, you know, within 6 months. I think at the change of occupancy makes a lot more sense. I think it's amenable for both staff and the public, and I think that it's a way that we can, you know, kind of compromise.
Would change of occupancy also include cases, they're probably very rare, where it stays the same business, but the owner changes?
Yes, I would say, well, that can be discussed, you know, because if there's a change of occupancy and it would have to go through our department, then yes, we'd want to see a Knox box put in. But we could, you know, have some leeway with that if it's, you know, if it's the same business but a new owner. But that would be something that would be up for discussion.
Would it make sense to include it with the permitting process? So even if
Yes.
they're going through a permitting, not necessarily change of occupancy, but upgrading something?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Maybe we
Am
could
I
do.
missing something? So Knox box, but basically, if there's a catastrophe and you gotta get in,
Yeah.
right?
Correct.
Or a false alarm.
The way it's done now, sometimes force is used.
Yes.
That's on the owner, right? I mean, could an owner come to you now and have this? I mean,
There are
do
there,
any
yes,
exist-
no, there are
Yeah.
businesses that have it now, but it's purely been through Al just saying either through a building permit or an occupancy or a land development or something like that, you need to put this on. But he doesn't have any force behind it. If they say no, he can't do
It's been a
anything.
So it's a strong
But-
recommendation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know, but I like people can. I don't know. Like, I mean, I think we're taking people's autonomy away. Like, if you want to run that risk, what is the negative to us when we don't have this in
Because
place?
it is a heightened risk for our public safety people as well. If they are delayed getting into an active fire situation, it is much worse by the time they get in than if they could have gotten earlier access.
Well, don't they just let the building burn then? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
No.
don't put them in jeopardy. Like, I'm not saying going into a worse situation. I mean, I don't know exactly. I don't know how exactly a fire works, right? I get the basic premise, but I don't know if if it's on
The stuff
fire, it's a
burns.
roaring fire. Like, we're not gonna do we really want to send them in? Like, it's like just let it burn.
Well, the only go ahead.
I mean, unless there's somebody in there, I don't know. You know what I mean?
That's up to whoever is in charge of the site.
What? I'm sorry.
That alarm initially goes off, the fire's gonna be small.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to wait for a half hour for somebody to come and open up the door before I can get in. Then the fire gets big. Okay, by being able to go in and check why did the alarm trip, they're able to address and minimize that.
Oh, I get that.
So-
But that's on the owner for putting, it's like, that's, I guess, what I'm trying to figure out,
Well,
right?
the-
You know what I
yeah.
mean? It's, the owner puts his property at greater risk when he doesn't do this.
What about the properties around him or adjacent to it?
Well, that's my next question. It's like, how can the fire, I don't know what the process is. Does the fire department say, okay, we'll let that go, but we're gonna protect the property around it? And does the lack of a knockbox change the risk to the surrounding property in
Well,
that scenario? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think.
So if we
go
say
ahead.
you don't have a knockbox, we let your property burn to the ground?
No, I'm saying you increase that risk of that happening.
I think.
Do you know what, like, I don't know. I don't, like, I feel, I don't know how owners feel about this, because I'm not sure I'm
think
getting
that's a-
all of the pros and
A
cons.
huge blaze it's gonna burn, right? I think it really comes down to when an alarm goes off for something small, it's like, well, instead of breaking down your door, breaking a window to determine that, we could have just got in and saved you money then,
Yeah,
right?
but that's on the owner, right? Like, look, the owner then has
But-
to take the risk of, he's gotta
Yeah, but
replace
then-
I
this
will-
door
I will
because he
tell
wouldn't
you.
give us a
Then our
knockbox.
public safety
You know what I mean?
person's at risk because they're
I- yeah, and I-
swing an
Makes their
axe
job
or go
easier
through a
to
window.
I would say.
Oh, it
too-
does create
Yeah.
higher risk of work injuries, and I'm very opposed to work injuries.
Yes, we know.
I-
That's right.
But I'm also like, where do we found the balance with the owner? That's all I'm saying. I like
Well-
this idea. I think they should take advantage of it. But I don't know if is that something we should
Well,
really require.
I would
That's
say,
all.
yeah, and I would say a couple things. The fact that we do have volunteer fire department really makes something like this necessary, because that's a volunteer now who's gone out in the middle of the night and is waiting a half an hour for someone to come and let him in a building that, for something that may be a false alarm,
Oh.
versus something they can address quickly. And the problem you run into is consistent issues like that lead to a less likely response. Go ahead, Susan.
Sorry, but just please remember Christmas morning about 3-4 years ago up at the community center.
Broken
All
pipe.
the damage, broken pipe. It took a while before the fire department could get in there, and with the knock box, it
Yeah.
would have helped a lot. They couldn't get in the building.
Do we have one?
And there was
We do.
significant
And
Yes.
damage. So,
I-
I mean, it does help in other situations other than
Yeah.
fires.
No doubt. I
Yeah.
am not questioning the benefit of having this box.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I would absolutely recommend that to anybody. What I am struggling with now is making someone do it. Like, I think everybody should do it.
Yes.
It's common sense, right? But if it's, and I also don't want our firefighters, whether they're paid or not, sitting out
No.
there for a half hour. It's like, well, then you knock down the door, and that's on the owner. But I also get there's a negative to that too.
Yeah.
I don't know where the balance is.
And I
What
will-
do
and I
other
will-
townships do?
Well, McCandless and O'Hara have adopted these
A lot
ordinances.
of people.
How is requiring a knock box any different than requiring a lighting plan to make sure that people aren't gonna trip in the dark? It's still an expense to the owner but we require it.
Yeah,
Or circuit
Well-
breakers in your electrical cabinet.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I guess at one point, this is not the hill to die on, but it is like after a while, if so many rules and too onerous, then they don't operate, right? And $500 is nothing, but to a startup company that has all these other requirements, it might be something. I'm not saying I'm for or against it. I'm actually very for it. I just don't know if requiring it, I'm struggling with that a little bit because I don't.
That's exactly
know.
where we ended up in 2019, and so now we have businesses that don't have a knock box.
Yeah.
Right, so my question in 2019
Yeah.
was also, how many times have our public safety had to break down a door in the past? I think I asked 3 years at the time, so why don't I ask now, since we didn't pass the ordinance in 2019, how many times have we had to break down a door?
Yeah, and I don't know that offhand because we don't do it. It's generally done by the VFD. I will tell you the claims are made against the VFD's insurance when they break down a door.
Well, that's
it does happen. It does. No, and that's why in O'Hara Township you saw in theirs. Now they required it within 18 months, but they made everyone who didn't want to install it sign a waiver that says you will not come after our volunteer fire company. I will tell
I
you,
mean, I like that idea.
I don't like the idea of that, honestly. To me, it's either. I think at occupancy is the best time to do it. A building permit, like you suggested, Mr. Midgley. I mean, you're doing probably an improvement that's 10, 20, God knows how many thousands of dollars. I mean, $500 is nothing in that sense. And I do view Knox boxes as a basic public safety instrument. But I will try to find out at least the 3 years.
At the time, I believe, who was the chief?
Maureen Law.
No, the chief was Brian Hilliard, I think, was the chief at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
VFD,
yeah.
I believe so.
And the answer was 0. So we were basically imposing an expense on owners when there wasn't a problem to really fix.
Well, but that's only looking at it
That's
from.
only, you have
yeah.
one part of the problem. The other problem is the wasting the time of our volunteer firefighters or our police officers or our code enforcement officer who has to wait for that person to show up.
So how often does that happen?
That's.
We just had
The
your
the
example.
number of false alarms.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd
If
be
you
one
read
number to
through
take a
out
look
the-
at.
So give me some data, convince me. Convince me that we need to fix a problem.
Every month in the fire marshal's report, there's several false alarms that are
Does that mean that they
reported.
waited? Okay,
That I don't
that's what
know.
I'm asking about.
Yeah. I can tell you, if you're not going to move on the Knox box ordinance, you'll be very interested, it'll be a very interesting conversation when we talk about the International Fire Code.
Does
Yeah.
the International Fire Code require Knox
No,
boxes?
it's separate, I believe. But we do have to start looking at fire safety as something that we need to address, given the fact that especially daytime response is what it is, what you would expect for a
So,
volunteer fire company.
Give me the ordinance in full context.
Is the fire
Before I'm
depart-
gonna charge someone $500 for a problem we don't have.
Is the fire department in favor of them?
Yes.
Don't question.
Yes. The president of the volunteer fire company is manager in a community that has a Knox box ordinance. Yes.
Unfortunately, Susan brought up a good point. If we would mandate this on new businesses, does the township have one on every building?
Oh, yes. Alcoan has made sure of that. I see one when I walk, actually,
All
if
right.
you walk outside this door, you'll see it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good,
Mhm.
because we would have to.
Yep.
Oh, I think it's great.
Yeah, I think it's.
That's not,
Overall,
please,
it's a public safety thing.
yeah, do not misinterpret my
Oh, yeah.
questions. I think that,
No, no.
everybody should opt in. I'm struggling with the,
Mandatory nature of it.
yeah.
Sounds like you'd like to be able to have an option for businesses to opt out, essentially.
But if they
I
do opt
guess-
out, I want them signing that.
Yeah, and
Part-
my
full
concern,
harmless.
my concern for that is then
It's
now
gonna
we're
administer that.
going to have to make sure that the waiver is legally applicable in all cases.
Who's
Like,
gonna
it's much
administer that
easier,
at 3
you
a.m.?
know,
Who's gonna administer that
yeah, yeah.
at
Well,
3 a.m.? When the alarm goes
Well,
off?
no, it
And-
would be
and
set
are
up
you-
beforehand.
And how are we going to verify that they actually make sure that their insurance company knows they've signed the waiver? I mean, I think we're
That's
creating
on
more of
them.
a problem, yes, but their insurance company will be coming after
Okay.
In the data, like how many things change hands every year in Hampton that might
a
help?
fair amount.
So in other words, like how many would we be effectively installing on a yearly basis? 5, 10?
No.
How many businesses are there in Hampton?
I'll tell you what,
These aren't-
we'll get
you
you,
don't
I'll
have to
get you,
answer
no,
it.
I'll get you
Yeah,
that
yeah.
information. I'll get you that information. That's a fair question. Al Cohen and I talked about it a couple months ago. I can't remember
Like
offhand.
how long would it take until we're 100%?
Sometime.
Essentially, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with that.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Okay.
I wonder if we started advertising the ability to do that. Like, do businesses actually think about that?
Like it. Yeah, like it.
We,
See how many would opt in
I think that's what I was doing right now. Is
yeah.
as he comes across them, right?
But he's only recommending, again, though,
Right, he
he's
doesn't
doing it
have
without
teeth.
any
He doesn't have
legal
teeth.
enforcement. Yeah.
Well, so follow-up question to that, and I'm sorry to make this longer.
No, you're fine.
What percentage is opting in versus saying nah?
I don't have any data on that. I'd have to.
Ask out. Like, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Guess it's
Like
low.
when he goes and suggests it, do we have a problem with people saying no?
And I will tell you, with both this item on the agenda, the next item, the reason that Al Cohen and Earl Smith are not here is because I knew that public hearing would go long, and I didn't want to do that to them, but I can certainly have them present in future meetings.
I can tell you that
Yeah.
I know the majority do opt in. However, I don't have exact numbers though.
Well, and then kind
That's
of
good enough.
along the lines with just kind of promoting it either on social media or the website or whatever. Didn't Amanda do some kind of checklist for new business owners, and couldn't this
She did.
be something that you would add to that checklist as something that you could do just
Mhm.
as a, you could put optional on it, but a suggestion. I'm just saying, like, more, so it's not just Al pushing it, it's actually township, I don't know, I'm just suggesting,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Does that business roundtable still meet?
No.
Yeah.
It kind of fizzled when she left.
Oh, never mind.
So if there's some interest, I can at least rework the ordinance based on what we've discussed all here tonight. And, it's not going to be before you for action at the next meeting, but, and I can try to get the data that you guys are interested in. And we can talk about it a bit more at the regular meeting if you're fine with that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, anything else on the Knox box ordinance?
It's a weird name.
It
Why
is,
did I think
it's
of
a
that
little
name?
hard to say.
Yeah.
You have to think about it.
Who is Knox? Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We're already long. I'm sorry.
All right,
It's all right.
Managed IT services.
And again, I knew this was going to be a later meeting, so I didn't ask Al or Earl Smith to attend this. We received 7 proposals that you all have as memo for managed IT services. Just so you know, one of these firms, it's Avanicon, they were the most expensive one. They have to be disqualified. They were not at the mandatory pre-proposal meeting, so they cannot be considered.
Okay.
This
I've already fired it before too.
Avanicon? Okay.
All right.
Never mind. To give some background, this service was previously held by All Lines Technology at a cost of $86,000 annually. In addition to this cost, Earl Smith, the IT administrator, he wanted to include the backup solution that's currently contracted with Net3 at a cost of $24,000 annually, and that contract is up, I believe, in September. So the total annual cost of the township under our present arrangement is $110,000. This doesn't include anything outside the scope of the contract for managed IT services, which is mostly monitoring, assistance, and off hours and cybersecurity. So the service contract we bid out was for 3 years. We got 6 proposals. The year 1 cost ranged from $32,400, which was ATEC, to $165,655, which was Cranston IT. The lowest cost, the problem is the lowest cost proposal, which was ATEC, was not sized to our number of users or environment. There was no goal established for the service level, no idea of future year costs, they didn't include that, and no description of the onboarding process. The second lowest cost proposal after that was by eSafe Partners. One of the big issues is CJIS compliance, which is Criminal Justice Information Systems. It gets to our police department. They're very much involved in that. They've been around for 35 years. Their first year cost with an onboarding was $98,988, and the subsequent years go up to $100,000 and then north of $105,000. Just based on his review, Earl was recommending eSafe as the managed IT provider. Again, I would point out, in the year 1 alone, you save $12,000 off of our current cost because they're taking on the backup solution as well. Again, I can have Earl attend the regular meeting if you have any technical questions on the proposals. I thought there was a good range. Like, there was 3 proposals that were within $20,000 of each other. So it tends to believe that they looked at the specs and had an idea of what they wanted to do. So.
Without knowing anything about this, is there one that's a Rolls Royce of service providers and one that's a Burger King?
I wouldn't say that. No, I
They're all
wouldn't.
about the same.
Not. Yeah, I was going to say there was none.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
what's
not what
wrong
I
with the
meant.
Whopper,
Yeah,
dude?
That's not what I meant. Sorry, we're getting punchy. But they're all about the same, Ryan. That's
Yeah, that was. I mean, Earl was pretty comfortable with several of them. I mean, AEC Group. I know I've worked with them before. He was concerned they don't have any CJIS compliance technicians, so that was a concern for him.
My organization uses PC Doc.
Mhm.
Full disclosure, they do a great job, but I don't have a police department, so I don't know how that works.
Can you ask Earl to see if he can figure out where eSafe was when we engaged All Lines?
Sure.
And see the what and why.
Why, if they submitted a proposal and why we didn't
Well, we
select
didn't
them?
do this before.
We didn't do a proposal?
No, we did a proposal.
I thought we did for
We
All
did.
Lines when we hired All Lines.
We did.
I think we negotiated directly with All
No,
Lines.
we did.
I don't think it was open.
It was an RFP.
No, we voted on it, I remember that.
Mhm. I can get you that information. Yes.
All right, anything else on item C?
No.
Item D then.
All right, I'll make this quick. We received 19 proposals for the architectural design for the public safety building.
Good, right?
I finally completed going through them today. That's not good. My initial review found 5 firms that we kind of, that at least just based on what I was looking at, would deserve further examination and an interview. But we're going to give copies of the proposals to the volunteer fire company and EMS for them to review for the top candidates as well. The price for the shortlisted firms ranges from $700,000 to $800,000. I would point out that is from design through construction, so it's not just the design, it's construction administration as well. We'd be doing interviews the week of July 22nd. In all reality, this is not going to appear on your next agenda for action. We just can't do it. Yeah, just a heads up. That's where we're at.
Any questions on that one?
You said 700 to 800 range?
Yes.
And you had 19
Proposals.
Yes.
proposals.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, did you send us a list of the,
I can
who
send
the
you.
19 are?
I can send that to you tomorrow, yes.
I'd be curious.
Yeah,
And
sure.
highlight the 5 that you think are
Not a problem.
feasible.
Sure.
That'd be great, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, any other questions on item D? All right, item E, please.
They'll be here. Eli and Evan will be here on July 22nd, and Jessica got their proclamations framed, so we're
Aw,
good to go.
nice, very nice.
Yep.
All right,
That's it.
anything else for
Done.
administration?
Free.
No. All right, we already did our one public safety item, but is there anything else for public safety? All right, community services.
Oh, Melanie.
Melanie.
Oh.
You ready to go to bed?
Don't you wish you did this in August instead?
I'm kind of offended that Ryan told Earl and
Yeah.
Earl and Al not to attend, but he had me attend. I didn't know that was happening.
Didn't know that was an option, huh?
For the
So
record,
mean.
this was your idea to put on the agenda.
No, you told me to come tonight.
I am sure she did not know the entire agenda.
I did not. I was not aware. This could have waited.
But you're here, so let's talk
Yeah,
about
Ryan,
it.
that hurts.
Thank you. So I would like to propose from my June 24th memo that we have a resolution for the Young Lungs at Play, which I brought props. These would be the signs for Young Lungs at Play. This would be for the playground, and then this would be for open spaces in the park. The open spaces in the park would be the ball fields, one at the sports court complex. I'm not looking to, put these plastered all over the park, but just somewhere so people would know to not smoke or vape by children. So this is not a big problem that we see here, but it was brought to my attention by a sporting organization that they were having some problems while their kids were playing, and that there was smoking going on, and they asked if there was anything that could be done. Now, in the community center and the pool, there are, it just says no smoking on our rules and regulations. This would be to clarify and more outline that there is no smoking throughout the park complex, the park areas, and it is just the park. I'm not looking to extend this to the entire complex. This is just pertaining to the community park. And it is a voluntary, we're not having police go out and cite people that are smoking. This is just voluntary, almost as similar as, we asked that all dogs in the park are on a leash. We've never sent anybody out if we saw a dog that wasn't on a leash. So that is pretty much the gist of Young Lungs at Play. I know I had a lot of information in the memo, and you guys have been here a long night, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. But if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I think we need it. I see
think so,
people
too.
parking, smoking by the ball field all the time, and it drives me nuts. And we have no smoking signs, and especially older individuals do that, and they don't care. And we've got young kids around, so I love the idea.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you had to do it at 9:30 at night.
That's okay. It was nice to see you all.
It wasn't that nice, Melanie. We know.
Hey, is there so I'm not at the park in that capacity to see a lot of smokers, but I'm assuming too that they're just throwing their butts on the ground and there's like a lot of cigarette trash, or is there?
So I did ask that.
Yeah.
Whenever, the problem was brought to us saying that there was, and it was at the ball field, so they were smoking at the ball fields. It was more so brought to my attention, and it was, hey, what's your policy on non-smoking? And normally when somebody has a question like that, it's like, okay, so is there either A, a problem, or B, litter? And they said it was more of a problem, but there is also some litter.
Yeah, so the litter drives me crazy.
Yes.
I hate it that people just think that birds are gonna eat the butts. Yeah, that's great.
So it would also help, keep our
Are we a
park a
bird
little bit
city
cleaner.
now too?
Yeah.
It goes into
Yeah.
our sewer. The rain washes it right away.
You can actually train the crows to grab the butts and put them in the trash. Not suggesting we do that,
Yeah,
just
Jerry.
throwing
I
it out
know.
there.
I think the vaping ban is as much, unfortunately, given the direction that we see, smoking
yeah.
going.
I would
Yeah.
personally be in favor of banning smoking from the entire park complex, but that's just me.
And then these signs, they're also free from the Pennsylvania Department of Health, so it wouldn't be at any cost.
Should have started with free.
Jerry's happy.
We all like free.
Look at a smile over here.
The signs are free?
Yes.
How many signs are we gonna put
We
up?
can get as many as we want because I have a great personality. So I was already told we can have more than just these. So
Wonderful.
as many as we
Yeah.
need.
It's excellent.
I'm in favor.
Yeah.
But again, it's casual reminders, not enforceable,
Correct.
not a ticketable thing.
And then it does have in here that, additional complexes that we would have,
Yep.
say like a turf field,
Makes sense.
then it does have in there that, additional structures that
But the
apply to as
focus
well.
is going to be really on
Where the kids
playground,
are at.
Exactly.
ball
Sports
fields,
fields, yep.
not the, pavilions, let's say.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And
I did put
people are
the-
having their picnics
Correct.
and everything.
I did put the pavilions in there just as a complex, but again, like if you're at a party, that's for you. Like if you have,
Right
it's
next,
your own personal things that are going on. No, it is primarily, none of these signs I'm looking to post on pavilions unless, we get severe complaints or problems, just like we did at the ball fields. But no, primarily just where there are kids, playgrounds, the fields, and that would be where we're looking to start.
it's that sidewalk right by the handicap parking spots.
That's where they go.
That's prime smoking area apparently.
Soccer too,
Mhm.
just along the road there.
Yeah. Nice one.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Doesn't seem like it. Thanks. All right. Environmental services.
Thank you. 2 weeks we'll be requesting consideration of an ordinance accepting the sanitary sewer main and easements associated with Pioneer Place residential development. This is the Development Office South Pioneer.
They got their checklist done?
Everything has been received. We have some video to look at the cammering of the lines, and it appears at this point everything is going to be good to go. So just need to conclude that with engineering. Get that in writing.
All right, great. Anyone have any questions? It's fairly routine. All right, anything else?
Nothing else unless there are questions.
Zoning and planning. I think we've kind of already handled the three
A,
items.
B, and C.
Anything else that you need to add for any of those? Okay. Anything else then? Anything else? Other business?
I'll tell you what, I'll give a shout out to the Depreciation Lands Museum for the wool walking and scavenger hunts in August, even though it's a little ways out. But Christmas in July at the community pool as well, Melanie. Thanks for staying for,
And I'll
on
call
July
out
22nd.
Pints in the Park, lots of fun. Been getting lots of compliments from people on those, so attend if you can. All right, anything else? This meeting is adjourned. Have a good night, everyone.
I've been doing this a really long time, and every time I see a bunch of people coming to a meeting, I know they're coming to complain about something.